So Hart, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Clark.
So if you could spend a little time telling us about your background, how you came to AWS and what your current role is.
Sure. So before AWS, I was working in the defense contractor intelligence space, doing a lot of systems integration work. And I really liked it. I loved the mission. I loved supporting the US government and governments around the world and what they did, and some regulated industries as well. But I'd always kind of maintained this list in the back of my head of the top security companies, right? And in the early part of my career, those were largely consumer focused, so antivirus, personal firewalls on your desktop, stuff like that. But over time, that list migrated into companies that were providing the infrastructure that makes the world go. Right. And so it's companies like Amazon, right, and other big infrastructure providers. And so I was really at a point in my career where I was looking for that next move, and I wanted to go someplace where they were really innovating on security that was going to make a difference, not just to a few customers who are very important, but really to the world. And so I had this opportunity to come to AWS and took it.
And what is your current role at AWS today?
These days, I'm the director of the Security and Infrastructure Global Specialty Practice in Professional Services, which is a bit of a mouthful. But what it really means is that my job is to help customers build the confidence and technical capability to operate their most sensitive workloads with us in the cloud.
Got it. So when you're looking at the different professional services offerings that your group offers to customers or makes available to customers, are there any particular mechanisms you follow to make sure that what you're offering is in fact what customers want and or need?
I'll give you a very specific example. There was a time a few years ago where we had a couple of customers thinking about migrating payment card systems into the cloud. And what they really needed was a team that both had expertise in cloud and modern operation of payment card systems, and also understanding of the PCI standard, right? And so, the first time that happened, we thought that's really interesting. Let's bring in a partner who's got PCI capability. And that really worked well, right? It's often the case that customers get the best outcome when they work with AWS and a partner. But we got additional feedback that they said, look, we really love working with the partners. We also want to make sure, though, that the expertise and the guidance we're getting from AWS is authoritative, that they themselves are PCI qualified. Right. And so what we ended up doing was writing a 6-page narrative, a working backwards doc, and developing a team that ultimately became a wholly owned subsidiary, AWS Security Assurance Services, which is a PCI QSA company, and now also a high trust assessor. And so we were able to take that initial feedback from customers, do some experiments, bring in partners, and ultimately build a new business to really delight customers. And by the way, keep partners involved.
That's fantastic. So there's no internal process that you will offer service X if there's not an ask for it from customers.
There isn't. And actually, in the conversations I've been in AWS now a little over 9 years, that's frequently discouraged, right? What is a common trope or meme is, you'll say something in a meeting and somebody will say that's really insightful, Hart. We appreciate that point of view, but what are your customers saying? Right? And it's not that they're discounting my expertise, but they recognize, and we recognize that we're going to get the right solution for customers when we deeply listen, right? When we help customers think about their solution through some back and forth, and then we filter that through the lens of expertise, right, and identify that unique Amazonian solution we can then take forward to the customer.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I imagine everything within your organization, you're constantly having to hire new consultants to satisfy the need of the customer asks. What are some things that you're looking for from that next great AWS security consultant that you're hiring? Is it a deep and broad security expertise? Is it a builder mindset that I just want to fix problems? What kind of backgrounds and talent are you really looking for when you're hiring for ProServe?
For sure. So there's a couple of things. At its core, we're looking for technical aptitude and cultural fit. Cultural fit is alignment with our leadership principles and the ability to kind of think through and internalize them and help us learn more about the leadership principle as we go. And then we also look at technical aptitude. What are they amazing at? And I think, that was kind of the root of your question. And what I really look for there is subject matter expertise in a particular domain and demonstrated ability to work in complementary domains as well. So, right, if you're an identity expert, have you also demonstrated that you can apply that in cryptography, or can you apply that in forensics, right? Or in other natural areas? Because what we find here is that we bring in people who are just absolute experts in their field. They have a tremendous amount of depth.
Right.
But that depth pushes you to breadth, right? Because everybody wants your expertise to help solve their problem, which is just a little bit different, right, from what you do day in and day out. And so we look for that agility, that flexibility, the ability to look around corners, the ability to apply your practice in unconventional ways. And then we absolutely look for builders, right? And I think, Clark, a number of the folks on my team, right. I really do insist that everybody, from my EA, through our delivery consultants, as well as our managers, all gain technical proficiency on the platform. Right? That's why we're here, is to help customers. And if you've never uploaded a cat picture into S3, right? Or if you've never, launched an EC2 instance or deployed some code in Lambda, you can't credibly talk to a customer about how they will solve their problem or build their next business on those self-same services. And so that ability to roll up your sleeves and really work with the technology and build credible solutions is really important to us.
You meet with a lot of customer executives, and of course you have consultants deployed throughout the world solving customer problems and helping them build different capabilities. Are there any particular trends that you're seeing as far as the security offerings that are being booked through AWS ProServe that customers need help with these days?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that we really see, and this is going back to really the beginning of the business, is that customers really don't want to buy insecure infrastructure, right? And of course, at AWS, we provide a very safe and secure set of services. Customers want to know the best way to implement them for their particular business need. And so these days, for example, containers are all the rage, right? Everybody's containerizing. They're implementing net new, or they're using containers to speed and smooth out a migration. So there's a lot of interest from senior executives on how do they get the container security model right? How do they get the operational security, things like vulnerability management, scanning, right about their containers and container security? Another area is incident response. Unfortunately, we're seeing in the news a lot of issues around ransomware and other types of attacks. And again, they want to understand what are the features they can use on AWS to best protect against those kind of insidious activities. And then how do they best enable their responders to be effective in the cloud, because it might be new to them. They might be absolutely excellent on premise, but now they've got a different set of environments to work with. And so we see a lot of interest in incident response. And then the other area is in security engineering, right? A lot of customers who come and talk to us and say, we want to build the way Amazon does, right? We're comfortable with your services. We think you've done a very good job and the way you expose your APIs. We want to harden our APIs the way you do. We want to have the same DevOps type of software development lifecycle that you do. And so we've recently actually developed a customer engineering capability that has a very strong emphasis on security, and we're working with customers on that as well.
When customers are starting out, they may use ProServe, they may use a partner to help identify what their initial landing zone is. And of course, we have Control Tower and other ways to do that these days. What types of services or even documentation do you all offer? And this will be a sort of a two-part question. One, as a customer, how do I know I'm setting things up the quote-unquote right way in alignment with AWS best practices? And then B, even if I do all those things, I might miss something and I may have a problem, whether it's a ransomware event or something like that. Is there an opportunity for ProServe to help me there as well?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, Clark. So there's a couple of things in both parts of your question. In the first part of your question, I always like to ensure customers are very familiar with some of our top line, I'll say, inspection tools, right? Need to be comfortable with well-architected, right? There's a really good set of guidance there. Need to be comfortable with trusted advisor, right? Need to be comfortable with security hub and guard duty, right? These are the kind of services that kind of help you understand where you are, right? And if you've implemented those fundamentals and if they're operating in a way that you would expect them to, right? And then from the sort of broader education and planning standpoint, we can look at services like APG, AWS Prescriptive Guidance, right? Which is this really phenomenal treasure trove of best practices and lessons learned from Amazon and our partners, right? on how we do things. And then we've recently launched a security reference architecture, which is very prescriptive guidance, both in words and in code, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
there's some text where we talk through a variety of use cases and architectural principles. And what was really important for me when we were developing that security reference architecture was that it wasn't notional, right? It's like real architectural drawings that show you how the AWS services actually function across your account from a security standpoint,
Oh, wow.
right? So it's not just sort of like, vague whiteboarding and arm waving.
Right.
It's really kind of the physics of security on paper. And then to complement that, real implementation. And so every use case in the security reference architecture guidance comes with source code that shows you how to implement it in a true reference implementation, right? And that's something we're going to build on over time. We're going to add different points of view. We've already gotten phenomenal feedback from customers. Not only do they love using it, but say, what about this use case? What about this use case I have? And so we're looking on iterating on that as well. And then you also asked about incident response. So we recently at Reinforce talked about our customer incident response team capability that's homed in ProServe. And that's really an opportunity for us to do two things. One is, most importantly, help customers look around corners and plan ahead, right? So that we can prevent any incidents from occurring. But if something does happen, go from a bump in the night to everything's all right, right? And then there's an opportunity through our support system where if you have a security event and you need some elevated or escalated help within AWS, we do have this customer incident response team that's in my organization, and they live really to help customers out of a jam, right? And so they provide a lot of hands-on support and a lot of guidance, in resolving incidents. And I'll say, in the majority of cases, customers are well attuned to responding to incidents and doing incident management. I think for them, it's often the newness. They maybe haven't done it before in the cloud, or it may be the novelness of the attack. Right. And so what they're really looking for is some experts outside their organization, right, to provide another point of view, to be able to confer, right, and kind of have a conversation around.
That's awesome. Hart, thank you so much for joining us today.
Cool. Thank you for having me.